This is Coach Jason Ballard, and I'm a business wingman. Over the years, I've learned a lot from working in our family construction business, serving as a senior officer in the United States Air Force, and running 12 different organizations around the world. Many people helped me get to where I am today, and it's my mission in life to serve as a personal wingman to others. That's what this podcast is all about, providing knowledge, tools, resources, and mentorship to help people soar to their highest altitude. Welcome back to the Soar Higher podcast. This is your host, Coach Jason Ballard. It's a real privilege to be with you today. We've got a really cool episode and lined up for you today. It's going to be a lot of fun. We have an amazing guest. It's got just a tremendous story, just tremendous person, tremendous story. I think it's very inspirational. I think you'll get a lot out of this. So what are we talking about today? Today we're talking about entrepreneurism, right? Breaking through barriers. We're talking about what is it like to be a female entrepreneur in a male-dominated industry, how you can break through different barriers, how you can, find your way and your space in the world and succeed in really any kind of environment. This is a story everybody can relate to in some form or fashion. So it's a real awesome opportunity to have an amazing person on the show. And so today we have the privilege of having Jackie McManus on the show. Let me tell you a little bit about my friend Jackie. Jackie's the CEO of KJ Media and Fifth Wheel Hub, which is a national trucking, logistics, and transportation marketing and advertising firm that helps companies grow and be more successful by solving their talent, attraction, and retention needs. She also is a keynote speaker, a radio personality, and she also has her own podcast as well. It's called Attention Retention. An amazing lady. Jackie, welcome to the show.
Jason, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be on today.
Yeah, well, we're thrilled to have you on the show. Just doing some amazing things out there, and so help the audience learn a little bit about you. Tell us a bit about you, your background, and kind of how you evolved into who and where you are today.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. So again, my name is Jackie McManus. I'm CEO and founder of KJ Media. And like Jason mentioned, we are a recruitment advertising firm in the transportation industry, operating in all 48 states in the continental. And I've been blessed to have the company now 11 years and started the company when I was a prime young age at the age of 26 years old. And I'm a girl from New York. I didn't grow up in the trucking industry, family, no friends, but I graduated college in 2008. And as we all know, 2008, we had the financial crisis. And I had a recruiter reach out to me and asked if I wanted to go for a job interview at a truck driving staffing agency. I'm like, a what and a what and a what? She's like, this is probably one of the better and only opportunities you will have. So I said, absolutely, I'll go in right out of college, hungry to get my feet wet. And that was almost a little bit over 15 years ago. And I still remember my very first interview with that truck driver staffing agency to this day. It changed everything for me. The CEO met with me, he sat me down and he asked me questions that stuck. And he pointed at a glass of water and he said, you see that glass? How do you think it got here? He pointed it over to the chair. Do you see that chair? How do you think it got there? And, kind of not confidently, I say, a truck question mark. And he said, exactly 76% of what we eat, drink, wear, it comes on a truck. And so that really sparked something in me and realizing how important trucking is to everything we do. It's one of the most essential industries in the country and affects so much more outside of the day-to-day that we see. And what I really loved in learning more about the CEO is that he was a truck driver himself. And he was a truck driver back in the 80s. Him and his brother started the staffing agency And at that point, it was doing about 5 million. Small business, but great business. And in 2008, 2009, we doubled that. So even though we were going through this financial crisis, the industry and the trucking industry did quite well, and so did this business specifically. And I realized, thinking as I'm talking to friends that can't land a job or in other industries that they're chasing, I'm like, this is the American dream. This CEO started his career as a truck driver and now owns a multi-million-dollar business, and he's helping people find jobs. And so from that point on, I was absolutely hooked. I was very blessed to wear a lot of hats at this company, from recruiting to dispatching. Really found my niche in sales and marketing, and really being able to work with other trucking companies in different verticals within the industry. And what I realized is that every company has their own unique needs when it came to hiring truck drivers. But the industry as a whole was just lagging behind in a lot of key areas. And technology was extremely, and still is, outdated in our industry. And the process of finding, hiring drivers was too slow. And another point there is that the driver turnover is about 110% in our industry.
Mm.
Too high. And not to mention, the industry as a whole back then really wasn't targeting the next generation of drivers. And that's when I knew I wanted to make a difference, and I wanted to help the industry become more competitive, bridge the gap between trucking companies and drivers, and saw an opportunity to change how recruitment was done and help one of the most essential industries in our country. So in 2013, I started KJ Media, and we have been fortunate and blessed to have 98% client success rate, retention rate. We really focus on building long lasting relationships and diagnosing ways for companies to accelerate their hiring process. And then in 2021, I launched Fifth Wheel Hub, and it's a community of truckers with the goal of educating, drivers that are currently working, but also educating the next generation of truck drivers. So it's been an incredible ride, but my passion really comes to servicing this industry and making it an industry that other folks see opportunity is, because it is an $8 billion industry, and it's not going away anytime soon. So that's a little bit about my story and why I started KJ and how I got into it.
Yeah, no, that was awesome. Thank you for that. And you don't really realize how important things are until you're impacted by them, right? So let's take the COVID and the pandemic, right? That was really one of the one of the times that I saw in my lifespan of the importance of logistics and transportation. Not being able to get toilet paper, and in the thought of running out of supplies. Shelves were empty. It took weeks to get stuff in, and just getting them off the docks, off the coast from overseas, to moving them via truck or train or whatever that may be across the country to this, down to the stores and the shelves in the stores. That was really it. That was a wake up call, I think, for a lot of people of how important this is. And I think you're right. I think it's an industry that is kind of overlooked. Everybody, kind of looks at trucking in a different way. I think it's an underserved area. And it's not, people talk about truck driving all the time. Most people look at truck driving and they're like, yeah, those are the people that are in the left lane on the interstate when they're going 65 miles an hour when I'm trying to go 85, and the big trucks clog up the roads, and, but you don't really think about the significance of what they do. I think right around 75 to 80% of all the goods and services, or at least goods, products, physical products, are moved through our oceans, right through these ships that move stuff all over the world. And then you've got, I think your stat was in the 70s of all the things we buy
Sure.
in America are there because of a truck and some kind of a semi or trucking organization that's moving things from point A to point B. It's such an underserved area, though. Most people don't know much about it and how it works, and they just know that their package shows up, from Amazon when it shows up, and regardless of how planes, trains, or trucks and how it got there. So I'm curious, as because you don't come across like somebody in the trucking industry. And I'm not trying to stereotype anything here, but to see you and talk to you, you're very polished. You look like a beauty queen. You live in New York. You
Well,
look like
thank
some
you.
runway model looking lady, and you're in trucking. And so how are you welcomed into that? This is a very male dominated kind of tradespeople, salt of the earth, good people that are in this space. How do they perceive you? How are you welcomed or not welcomed into this industry?
That's a great question, and it's going to be an interesting answer that I give you here, Jason. How much time do we have? But I can say this, early in my career with that truck driver staffing agency that I was a part of, I climbed the ladder, and in my mid 20s, early to mid 20s, I was a director. Now, I was the only female director. I was the only director under the age of 30, actually, under the age of 45. And it really comes down to having really great allies in this space as well. So, male allies, and the company that I was working with at the time, they believed in me. And I've always been to the type, my mom has always said, show up and the rest will follow. And it's true. I think oftentimes it's easy to play things out in your head and build up scenarios or anxiety. And I have to say, my friends and family were equally surprised that I was in the trucking industry, not only in it, but enjoyed it. But having that fair shot in the male dominated industry was really about having confidence in my abilities and not afraid to take up space in the boardroom at 24 years old and making my voice heard. Did I have to speak sometimes a little bit louder, or did I have to, take more time to learn about the topics that I was speaking of? Absolutely. But that was also because I was younger. But I saw myself, and this is where I think it can be unique. I saw myself as a peer within that group, um, seeing everyone as equal, as directors, all the clients as well. And yes, I had to go a little bit the extra mile to gain respect. But once I proved who I am, my work ethic, and my overall goals for the industry, naturally folks just gravitate to, well, she knows what she's doing, right?
Hmm.
And so, but it does come down to really taking that time, having confidence, and realizing you're going to make mistakes. But if you keep trying, you keep showing up, the rest will truly follow. You have to put in the work. And so, throughout my career, I really have looked at it as, yes, I'm a woman in the male dominated industry. It's only 9% of women in the industry. When
Hmm.
I started, it was about 4%. But how else do we get interest in our industry? Whether it's a driver or whether someone like me owning an advertising agency in this space. It's about expanding and having that diversity. And so I think sometimes the biggest barrier is going to be yourself in taking that steps. And yeah, sure, were there comments? Were there absolutely right? But I also think there was a benefit of me being a woman in the industry, especially in my early years. And so, being really strong and resilient are two of the biggest takeaways that I can provide in how I got in and then maintained in the space. And now I have so many male allies in the space that have just continuously, recommended me or build me up. And, they often say the same thing, Jason. But what it comes down to is if you are good at what you do, want to help people, want to educate, you want to elevate the industry, everything else will follow. So those are kind of philosophies that I live by. And I have to say, I have to thank my mother again. She taught me that at such a young age to just show up, be prepared, and the rest will follow. And that truly seems to be true.
That is amazing. I think that's so true. People, I think, overcomplicate things in life and sometimes make excuses or, whatever that may be. But, but if you know what you're doing, you do the research, you look at the data, you show up, you be a professional. And I love what you said about relationships. You connected with the people in this industry, mostly men, right? And building a relationship there, building trust, a professional, kind of a courtesy, a professional respect for each other and what you do and what you bring to the table. Because at the end of the day, thing I know about you, Jackie, is when you do something, you do it 100% or you don't do it at all. Like there's no half-ass Jackie,
The
right?
blessing and a
And
curse.
it can be, yes,
Yeah.
that is true. But nobody wakes up in the morning saying, oh my goodness, what a great day to go to work and hang out with a bunch of screwballs. Like, I can't wait to get to work and hang out with people that aren't motivated or don't care about their job or they're just here to collect a paycheck. No, people want to be around people that are fun, that are motivating, that are successful, that are go getters and problem solvers and have good energy and positivity and mostly passion. And with you, my goodness, you are overloaded with passion for just doing great things in the world and doing delivering excellence in what you do, but excellence in the greater good of the industry. One thing that I've certainly noticed with you in the time that I've known you over the past year or so is you're such a strategic thinker. It's not just about doing your job in whatever job you're doing it and doing a great job at it, but you're just so strategic looking at the industry as a whole and what's going on and who's moving and who's shaking and what's working and what isn't and where are the gaps, where are the challenges, where are the opportunities. And you're so like methodical and strategic there. And I think that is it's an amazing attribute that you can contribute to the greater good for which everybody can benefit. So, you started off working for this person, this guy that was a truck driver turned business
Yes.
owner. He hires you, gets you fired up, you get ingrained in the industry, and you start talking, walking, sounding like somebody that owns the trucking world. And then at some point, you decided to go into business for yourself. So what happened? What clicked in your mind? You're like, today's a great day to own my own business. I think that's the direction to go. So what happened there? What prompted you to take the plunge and do all that?
Yeah, with that company specifically, I'd say blessed because I had the opportunity to go into each division, work in the grassroots. I was on the phone with truck drivers and dispatch, right? People always just still laugh about that to this day. That was actually my day one in the job. I was on the phone with drivers and dispatch. And that's when I learned how to speak French. So, but then from there to recruiting, but really where I found my sweet spot was sales and marketing. And so as a staffing agency, I'm all over the World Wide Web trying to find really good job boards, not just job boards, but agencies to help us get better candidates. And back then there was maybe one or two companies in this $8 billion industry that was serving trucking companies. And so at the age of 26, it clicked. It was the right time for me to go on my own and give it a real shot. Not married at the time, no children. That was the opportunity. And through that, I worked with in getting our footing with clients that worked with us on the staffing side. So
Mm.
I was able to go directly to them and talk to them about the mission and what we're going to do and if there really was value, right? I think that's also something too. A lot of folks get so detailed into, I call it paralysis analysis, when it comes to the business plan, right? They're on page 42, but they haven't even asked their ideal clients or their ideal target clients, what are your thoughts, right? And so I just went out there, and I'll never forget my first actual deal. I was in Newark, New Jersey, in the ports, which it's interesting. And I jumped on the back of a dock and I met the CEO. He happened to be there. And our first deal was a video. And he signed me a check and he gave it to me that day. Jason, you may have thought it was $100 million. I could not have been more excited about it. But realizing there's a need, there's a real need. And also, what would really spark the passion too was, and even to this day, a lot of my clients, they started as truck drivers.
Yeah.
And as we are in the United States, very much you're pushed to go to college. That's what you're supposed to do. And college just isn't for everyone, and that's
No.
okay. There are so many incredible opportunities that they've put together with trucking companies where, the age gap is 21 to drive cross state lines. But, companies are now hiring warehouse workers. They're recruiting them right from high school, starting them in the warehouse, starting them in the docks. Then at 21, they get their CDL. And back to that point, about half of my clients, they were an active CDL truck driver.
Mm.
And now they're general managers, vice president of operations, some CEOs, doing incredibly well for themselves and their family, but it started in driving. And so really putting all those pieces together, my thought was we need to get trucking out there. We need the mass population to understand the industry because it's a fabulous industry to be part of, whether you're driving or again, whether you're a creative that works in my team. It's a great industry to be a part of. And so that's when I took the leap of faith. And we quickly found success. So we knew that this was a need, a true need in the market. And then from there, the highs and lows of entrepreneurship, but most of it has been pretty high. And I think what it comes down to, and you touched on this briefly, is I always prioritize building relationships. I don't believe that just because I sell, this piece of paper, it's got it's a rectangle, but you might need a circle, right? And so every solution is customized to what our client's current workflow is like. So it's only to enhance what they're doing, not remove, not make busy work. It's just to make them better so that they can hire better drivers. So it has been an incredible ride, and I definitely have seen over the years the branding around trucking is starting to elevate slightly. Typically if you think of a truck driver, you think of the got grease, he's got a plaid shirt on, maybe not combed his hair, and we're really working on elevating that brand identity of what the driver is. and elevating that as much as possible so that we can get to the next generation, get them interested in the industry, and, 21, take one of their buddies and travel across country. I mean, what a dream. Come back. They can work in management. They can go whichever direction, really. But there's always going to be need for proactive, hungry people in the industry. And so that's really what the passion started with. But we had proof of concept, and we launched from there. So it's been an incredible ride, to say the least.
That is such an inspiring story, Jackie. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I am not a stranger to the trucking industry. I've got a nephew in his mid 20s right now, and he was going down the path of college, and then that didn't work out, and then he was going to go be a kind of a sheriff's deputy, and that wasn't what he thought that was going to be. And he stumbled into truck driving, and then he ended up loving it.
Is
And
that
he
right?
drives from South Alabama up to New York and back again. And dude, he, young guy,
Yeah.
no kids, no spouse or anything that I'm aware of at this point. but good. And he looks nothing like, he looks like a guy that, that's in a boy band or something. He's got the spiky hairdo and kind of clean cut, and like he does not look. If I told you, yeah, hey, let me meet my nephew, you know uh he's a truck driver. You're like, no way. Like, he wears shorts and flip flops, and like, I mean, he doesn't wear flannel shirts. He doesn't
Yeah.
wear
Yeah.
John Deere hats or whatever you think truck drivers wear, right? These Some of the stuff you see in the movies, it just isn't true. And he loves it, man. He goes all over the world and just does some phenomenal things. And he's a small town boy from Podunk, Florida, and opened up a whole new world for him. I remember I had an aunt and uncle, and they had a tobacco farm in North Carolina, Wilson, North Carolina. We had a family farm there, and they grew tobacco and other types of crops and things. And I remember going up there in the summer. That was our vacation, was working on the farm. I'm like, how is this a vacation? Like,
Started you young.
if I don't wear enough clothes and gloves, like, I touch this tobacco, I can die of nicotine poisoning in like a 24-hour period. So they had the farm. It was very successful, and they got into their early 60s, and it just was too much, and just decided to sell the farm. But they didn't want to just like sit around the house, and they're very active, very busy people, like to travel. And so they bought a semi truck,
Is that
and
right?
that's what they did. They bought a semi truck. They found a couple of carriers or whatever to work with, and they were kind of free agents, if you will. And it was just him and my aunt, and they took turns driving. They got and they drive all over. They're passed away now,
Together.
but at that time they drove all over and just got to travel, see the world. They'd drop a load off, and then they'd park their truck, and they'd rent a vehicle and go to Yellowstone, or they'd go to some national park, and they take a few days off, and they go get their truck, and then they go pick up another load. And so they weren't in the grind every day, hustling like some folks do. They kind of pace themselves, but they loved it.
Hmm.
Loved it. It's an amazing industry, as I've gotten to know it. And working with people in it even today, it's amazing. It is not like what you think or what you see in some of the TV shows and things like that.
Well, that's exactly it. And it's interesting. So the average age for new drivers getting in at this point is 37.
Oh my gosh, no
Think about
way.
that. That's quite a bit of your career that has gone
Why
by.
is that? What's driving middle-aged people to make a big change like that?
It's typically, but this is the next number I want to share with you. The next number from there is about 56, 57. And guess what? It is those empty nesters. Their kids just graduated. They don't need to stay in the same hometown anymore. They can travel. And those empty nesters, husband and wife team, pair up, get their CDL, get a truck, couple of loads, and the opportunities are there. And exactly that. You can go do your load and park at Yellowstone and, check that out and then head over to California. Um, it's so fascinating that that's now the new generation, and not the new generation, but the folks that are actually coming into the industry at that 37 to 56 range. And
Yeah.
I think folks have gotten into it at 37s because the industry has done a better job at advertising and promoting the industry
Yeah.
to folks that, maybe they've been a mechanic most of their lives. But some of these salaries for the industry, they're six figures. They're easily
Yeah.
sign-on bonuses. They're high, and so you might have to take a load and be a over-the-road driver for a year or two to get some, you know, safety credibility under your belt. But from there are about half the companies are local, so you can have a route right in Louisville and head
Yep.
right over to back and forth every day and get paid six figures. And that is something I believe is the American dream. And
Yep.
these folks even
Freedom. Yeah. Being
freedom,
on the open road
freedom.
and
That's
yeah,
exactly it.
because a lot of the truck drivers I know, Jackie, they can make their own schedules for the most part, right? Now, then, the trucking companies have needs, and you got to fulfill the needs of their clients. But sometimes they work part time and only do so many trip, a couple trips a week. Sometimes they're making 10 trips a week, depending on right. You can go as far in this as you want to. You can make as much money as you want to, or you can have it as a side hustle and do little at a time and you not kill yourself and break your neck out there doing it all. And it's very, just a lot of freedom, the open road. You don't have an office. And a lot of people like that, especially in this day and age, post COVID,
Yeah.
people like freedom. They like having the feeling that they can determine their future and define their life and their lifestyle. And I think that's just amazing. Now, an interesting thing about you is, not only did you just, have a great experience with your first job and that helped you launch your business. And, you could have just sat there and, you know, built your business and, continue to do great things and be a business owner and, help the customers that you've signed up to work with. But no, 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 no. You decided to be kind of an industry kind of thought leader where you're seeing things on a macro scale.
Mhm.
And, I think that led you into radio, that led you into
Yeah.
podcasting and doing some public speaking, keynote speaking at some of these transportation and logistics expos, conferences. And so what led you into that? And how did you kind of become this industry expert of all the dynamics that are going on in this world and how to connect people and talk about these things in a very strategic manner? I mean, that's fascinating to me.
Yeah, that's a great question, and it didn't happen overnight. It that simple. It did not happen overnight. I remember, quick story. I was at a conference in Vegas for the Truckload Carrier Association, and there is some new Verizon reps that were trying to break in and talk to these folks in the industry, and they came over to me. They're around my age, well dressed, and they said, "How do you get these guys to talk to you?" And I said, "Is this your first event?" And they're like, "No, this is our second event." I go, "Well, you have to show up to the next 15 events in order for them to speak with you because it's a very close knit community." I always call it the 2 degrees of transportation separation. If we've never
Huh.
met before and you've been in the industry for 10 years, we have someone mutually in common. And um, really, at that age of 26 of starting the business, I mean, I was at every event possible, visiting clients, going to these trade shows, asking how to speak at these events. And, over time, they started asking me, can you be the keynote? Can you, sit on this panel? Can you, I'm on Sirius XM Road Dog Trucking, which is fantastic. Channel
Road dog
126.
trucking. All
Road
right.
Dog Trucking. And we got a cool fan club over there. And I get to talk to drivers and find out exactly what got them into the industry, what's keeping them in the industry, and taking that tangible feedback and relaying that to our clients. But, really going back to the bigger passion that I have is, you know, I don't look like the stereotypical person in the trucking industry, but
Huh.
we need to diversify the industry. So if I don't get out there and speak and educate and talk, it's going to just take that much longer. So, but that's my goal. And what I love doing is empowering people because I've been able to build a beautiful life and a great business, great people, great clients. And it's all relationships, but it's because of the trucking industry, right? And I think that is just a really key piece. Going back to COVID 2020, never forget, because there's always been eyebrow looking at me from my friends saying, trucking, why? Like, we can get you, on Fifth Avenue. They gave me a call, Lester Holt. They did this whole segment on truck drivers in America and how essential they are. Two of my best friends gave me a call and they go, okay, now we get it. Any chance you have a job available?
That is cool.
So really, that is, look at any industry, the more you get out there, the more you speak, the more you educate, if you can leave a little nugget for someone to go home with, and maybe they go back to their husband, their wife, and say, I think we need to look at going into trucking, or we need to look at getting our CDL, which, by the way, a lot of companies pay for you to go get your CDL.
So you don't even have if you were interested in doing this, you don't even have to pay money to get
Yeah.
trained, certified, ready to go, road dog ready.
Yeah.
They'll do it all for you and
They'll
and
do
and
it for
pay you to
you.
do
There's
it.
a little
Yeah.
bit of contingency, of course, around that. Stay with that company for about a year, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and it costs $10,000, $15,000. But
Right.
there are so many companies out there that encourage that, and then they'll train you. They'll train you this program, and then you have a job immediately. And then
Yeah.
from there, it's always putting in your 1 year work, and from the 1 year of work, then you can look at trucking companies that are local and home daily and even a Monday through Friday job. I mean, that's very much available. It's typically the first year or so is really doing kind of the hard work. So like your nephew, for example, what a great time to have this flexibility in his life, not married, no kids, and travel the country as a whole. So um, we've been able to help facilitate and still actively working on expanding folks to come in this industry again, whether a driver or whether a graphic designer. There are needs in this space, and it's not going away anytime
No.
soon. And so, yeah, I'm a big believer. The more you share, the more you talk, the more you connect people. Overall, we're gonna band together as a community and be able to thrive in the most essential industry in this country.
Yeah, absolutely. And even in my industry, as a business and executive coach, I work with all kind of different companies,
Mhm.
marketing companies, manufacturing companies to engineering, architect, IT, whatever. I have noticed a huge need there as well, independent of, our conversations and our friendship, right?
Mhm.
Just in the past few months, I have signed 3 different transportation, logistics, types of companies very similar in nature. And man, as I talk with them, work with them, understand their business and where they're at and what they're trying to do, boy, I'm telling you what, you definitely have an eagle eye for opportunities out there, because boy, it is wide open, and they need the help. They want the help. They've got all kind of opportunities themselves, and I mean, it's just a wide open space that they can't fill the needs. There's gaps.
Mhm.
You probably know the broader numbers, but I mean, there are thousands and thousands of job opportunities open and vacant that are, companies are struggling to fill, with good top notch folks. And so it's a fascinating industry. It really, really is. Not a lot of people know much about it.
Let me give you a stat right here for number of openings, Jason, because I just pulled this last week. There are 230 active, thousand active truck driving jobs available right now in the
That's
United
just truck drivers. That's
States.
not
Just truck
other.
driver. That's not even
Okay,
actively.
230,000. Now I'm assuming
Mhm.
that's national.
That's national.
That's what we know about. That's what's advertised. There's
Yes,
probably
that's
even
all.
more than that.
Exactly. That's right. Exactly.
So phenomenal, phenomenal.
Yeah.
Um, so what's the vision here for you? I want to. You're such a visionary person. What's the ultimate vision here? Like what needs to happen for you to feel like the industry's changed, or you've contributed, and it's in a different place? What is this different place? What do you want to see happen as a result of your work and other people's work to really transform, whatever you want to call this industry?
There's two things that are kind of the carrot that I dangle to myself on what I would like to see. And one of the biggest areas is the trucking industry adopting to utilize technology,
Hmm.
especially in recruitment. Um, Many times, and you probably know this with some of your clients in the industry, their grandfather started the business, their father started the business. There are so many companies that are multi-generational. One of my clients, fourth generation, they started in 1903, right?
Mm.
But with that, technology has really not been front and center. And what I mean by technology is having better engagement, automation, data, because for us as digital marketers, it's critical to stay competitive in that world with 200,000 driving jobs available. A driver is maybe applying to 15 jobs at once through Indeed because it's one click.
Yep.
And it comes down to the company being able to make a connection with that driver within the first 5 minutes of applying. And more often than not, there's maybe one automated text that goes out or an email that goes out to these drivers, and then a recruiter finally gets to call them 5 days later, 6 days later. At that point,
It's too
that
late.
driver miss miss the opportunity.
Yeah,
Actually,
they're gone.
they're gone. They say after an hour, after a candidate applies, the hire rate drops by like 45%.
Yep.
So for us at KJ, it's very much to be helpful in creating the technology to create engagement in the first 5 minutes of a driver applying. And more importantly, utilize it in a fashion where it's not just about getting their information and having them fill out the DOT application. It's about building that engagement in the beginning to find out exactly what is that driver looking for in their next opportunity. Does that match the core values of what your company is looking for? I mean, you and I have talked a lot about
Yeah.
this on finding your ideal candidate. And that's something in our industry because we're hiring so fast. It kind of is put on the back burner. But here's the thing: that I'd like to see is retention go down. With the industry
Mm.
average of over 100% retention, you're fitting, a square into a round hole. And leveraging aspects of engagement, AI, automation with figuring out who those ideal clients or the ideal candidate is, that's going to be a better match. And then from there, you should have a better retention rate. So the second goal, besides for data automation and getting these small to medium sized businesses out there to compete, the second is really assisting the industry in lowering their overall retention at companies. And
Yep.
that's been a big focus for us. So for on our end, we focus on how do we get our clients their ideal client candidate, lead to speed, but also a human element, right? So we don't want to take the human aspect away. It has to be a really, delicate balance of the two. I think nothing will ever be the interaction between a recruiter and a truck driver candidate in the first 5 minutes. However, time is limited, right? So how do you get them closer to the finish line if you, as the trucking company, are busy with other tasks? Which in our industry, I mean, like many, but especially ours, clients are wearing 17 hats and then taking out the trash at the same time, right? So, um, you know, for us, it's really about focusing on lowering overall retention and adapting tools, technology in the recruitment process to help accelerate the overall hiring.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Long are the days, especially in this industry, where you just need a warm body. Oh, somebody retires, somebody leaves, somebody moves, something happens. Well, yeah, let's just, put out, cast a net out there, talk to your family, talk to your friends. Let's see if they're interested in coming in and, the good old boy network kind of stuff. And that just doesn't work anymore. Just having another warm body that may have a license to be able to drive a big truck, that doesn't work anymore. It costs too much time, too much money
It's funny.
to throw a body at it. Now you need to be very precise. You need to know exactly who is the best fit into your company, the culture, that has the same morals, values, safety standards, and in preciseness in what they do to drive these trucks, their ability to communicate, their ability to, because these drivers are out there, they see and interact with the clients, right? They're dropping off the loads at the stores
They're
and
salespeople in a way. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And so, they're representing your company and what they're saying and how they're coming across. And, they can really be a force multiplier in your company. So you just can't throw a body at it anymore. And it has to be a really good fit. It has to be a very specific profile that's right for your company. It has to be a very specific fit into your group. And gone are the days where the good old boys run the company. Like, you need really good leadership in these companies that, it's great that they, have driven a truck and maybe have, that background experience, but they still need leadership because there's that people dynamic. These truck drivers want to feel like part of something important, part of value, like they're making a difference in the world. They just don't want to just drive somewhere for somebody for no reason, right?
Right.
That's not how the world works. And so you've got to adapt these human principles about what they need and bring them into the fold. And so where you see retention being as low as it is and the turnover rates as high as they are, that tells you there's disconnects there. And I'm just so glad there's people like you, Jackie, that get that understand that and are doing their darndest to get out there and close those gaps and keep people moving our products and services for the greater good of our country, right? It's all good and well until you can't, get toilet paper at the store. It's all good and well until your favorite restaurant doesn't have your favorite food anymore because they can't get it to them, right? And when that kind of stuff happens, um, you know, that you see the magnification of that impact. So great job in all the things you're doing. I love that you've just been very strong and focused and unapologetic about doing the right things, and just, pun intended, driving right through this industry as kind of a stalwart in it, and really paving the path. I think you've cleared the way for a lot of other, females to come into the business. And I think even have mixed up the business enough, churned it enough to get people thinking differently about it, to drive, again, drive the change that this industry needs to continue to go down. So, um, as we kind of conclude today, Jackie, what are maybe two major takeaways you'd like the audience to take away about, being a successful entrepreneur, breaking through barriers, and really, doing meaningful things out there?
That's a great question. I think there's a few things. It's about believing in yourself, developing that confidence. When it comes down to the end, like at the end of the day, we are all right. We
Yeah.
all are nervous about public speaking, or people are nervous about flying, and take the pressure off a little bit and realize, develop that confidence and realize that we are all just humans at the end of the day. And if you have good intentions, passion, it will shine through. So especially for women that are in these male dominated industries, and they know in construction and there's other industries where women are really taking over. Find allies, not only female but male allies. That was probably one of the better decisions I made starting KJ at my previous company, is having male allies to help initiate some of those relationships, build my confidence. And so, networking and the power of building trust is just, it's critical. Your name is on everything, whether it's your company or not. And so by delivering, by having a relationship with your clients and building trust, it's only going to make you feel good at the end of the day. You'll be able to lay down with your head on the pillow and say, okay, I did okay. Are there scenarios that are probably challenging and going wrong, quote unquote? Absolutely. It's in any industry. But if you have the confidence in yourself, when there's a will, there's always a way. And so I definitely would love the audience to take that away about believing in yourself, confidence. There's a will, there's a way, building allies, and building your own community of trust. That will take you so far. Um, Again, if that's what you want to do with your company. And I would say probably 99% of the entrepreneurs out there want to grow their business. And so I found those three pieces to be really key to my success over the years.
Excellent. And thank you for that advice. Thank you for all the great work you do out there to help people in this industry. And just amazing work, amazing results, amazing. You're just amazing person. So thank you so much for being on the show, Jackie. If people want to contact you, whether it's another young lady out there that's looking to kind of
Yeah.
find her way in the world, or maybe start a business or get into a space that may be more male dominated and she's maybe a little intimidated by it, or maybe it's a truck driver, maybe it's a trucking company in this industry that's maybe has questions, maybe has some thoughts or ideas, they want to contact you, learn a little bit more about you, and maybe pick your brain a little bit. What's the best way for people to contact you and engage you?
In the world of technology, there's about 17 ways, so I'll give you two. You can go to my website, kjtransmedia.com. That's kjtransmedia.com. Additionally, you can go directly to my LinkedIn, type in Jackie McManus, friend me if we're not friends already, send me a message. I constantly get the alerts, and I welcome entrepreneurs. I welcome, women that are thinking about getting in a male-dominated industry or in it, even if it's outside of trucking, drivers, because again, the more we can educate and connect people, the better the industry will be.
Yeah. And her podcast is Attention Retention. It's out there on all the major
Yep.
podcast networks, iHeart, Apple, all those big ones out there. Look for that. And obviously she's on Sirius Radio, Road Dog. What was it again?
Road Dog Trucking Channel 146. It's a whole Sirius XM channel that's dedicated to drivers.
Very nice. Very
Yeah.
nice. So you can catch her in all of those different places. And I invite you, if you're in the trucking, logistics, transportation industry, she's a great person. She knows a lot of people. Connect with her on LinkedIn, connect with her in these different kind of media forums. And I promise you, you'll be glad you did. So Jackie, thanks for being here today. Next week, we got an amazing show. We've got one of the nation's best master negotiators going to be on the
Ooh.
show and going to navigate us through how to negotiate, how to get things out of life that you want to get the way you want to get it without cutting somebody's throat to get it right. Everything in life is a negotiation. This guy's going to give us all the secrets and how to do that. You don't want to miss that. That's it for today. Have a great week, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.